Welcome back, dear listeners, to another episode of Within and Without, a path to mindful living. I'm your host, Arya Elina, and today we're diving into Chapter 5 of the Bhagavad Gita, Karma-Sannyasa-Yoga, or the Yoga of Renunciation and Action. This chapter is a profound reflection on harmonizing action and renunciation as complementary paths to spiritual freedom. But before we get into today's topic, let me take this time to welcome back my insightful co-host, Rayan Wells. Rayan, it's always a pleasure to have you here. How have you been?
Thanks, Arya. It's great to be back. I've been doing well, and I have to say, I'm really looking forward to exploring this chapter. The tension between action and renunciation is something I think about often. It feels so relevant to modern life, doesn't it?
It absolutely does, Rayan. And I think that's what makes Krishna's guidance so timeless. Balancing worldly engagement with spiritual detachment is a challenge we all face. But before we jump into Chapter 5, let's take a quick look back at Chapter 4. Do you remember the key insights we explored last time?
Of course. Chapter 4, Jnana Karma-Sannyasa-Yoga, introduced us to the concept of divine action. Krishna taught us that all actions, when performed selflessly and with awareness, can become sacred. He also emphasized the importance of aligning our actions with higher wisdom, transcending dualities, and seeing life as an interconnected whole.
Exactly, Rayan. It was such a profound chapter, and it really set the stage for what we'll discuss today. In Chapter 5, Krishna takes this idea further by addressing the relationship between renunciation, sannyasa, and selfless action, karma yoga. He explains that while both paths can lead to liberation, engaging in disciplined action is often the more practical and fulfilling approach for most people. What do you think about that, Rayan?
I think it's fascinating, Arya. At first glance, renunciation and action seem like opposites, but Krishna's perspective that they're complementary paths feels both insightful and empowering. It makes me think about how we often struggle to find that balance in our daily lives.
Exactly, Rayan. That struggle reminds me of a friend's experience. They had to choose between staying in a stable but unfulfilling job and taking a risk to pursue their passion for teaching. It felt like a battlefield, a tug of war between financial responsibility and inner fulfillment. Their journey to balance these priorities reminds me of Krishna's teachings in this chapter.
That's such a relatable story, Arya. It highlights how real these inner conflicts are. Krishna's teachings on approaching action with detachment while staying fully engaged feel incredibly relevant for anyone navigating modern challenges.
And that's what makes this chapter so special, Rayan. Krishna reminds us that it's not about avoiding action, but transforming how we approach it. By focusing on the process rather than the results, we can find clarity and peace, even amidst life's chaos. And before we dive deeper, a quick reminder. If you're enjoying these discussions, don't forget to like this episode, share it with someone who might find it meaningful, and subscribe to Within and Without, a path to mindful living. Your engagement helps us grow this mindful community and ensures you don't miss any future episodes. Now, let's step onto the battlefield with Arjuna and explore how Krishna's teachings in Chapter 5 can guide us toward finding purpose and balance in our actions. Ready to dive in, Rayan?
Absolutely, Arya. Let's explore how these paths of renunciation and action can complement each other and guide us in modern life.
Now that we've set the stage, let's dive into the philosophical core of Chapter 5. Krishna begins this chapter by addressing the relationship between two seemingly opposite paths, renunciation, or sannyasa, and selfless action, or karma yoga. Rayan, how does Krishna explain these two paths?
Krishna acknowledges that both paths, renunciation and action, can lead to liberation, but he emphasizes that for most people, karma yoga, or disciplined action performed without attachment to outcomes, is the more practical and fulfilling approach. This teaching is incredibly empowering because it shows that spiritual growth isn't limited to those who renounce the world. It's accessible to everyone engaged in daily life.
That's so true, Rayan. Krishna even highlights that true renunciation isn't about abandoning responsibilities, but about relinquishing attachment to the results of our actions. He uses the metaphor of the lotus leaf to illustrate this beautifully. The lotus leaf remains untouched by water, no matter how much surrounds it. Similarly, when we act with detachment, we remain unaffected by the chaos around us. What's your take on this metaphor?
I find it so profound, Arya. The lotus leaf is a perfect symbol for living in the world while staying spiritually centered. It reminds me of the modern concept of the flow state, where you're fully immersed in the task at hand, without being weighed down by worries about success or failure. This aligns perfectly with Krishna's guidance, doesn't it?
It does, Rayan. When we focus fully on the present moment, we transcend the noise of ego and attachment, experiencing clarity and peace. This idea also connects to Sadhguru's teachings on karma. He explains that karma isn't just about past actions, but about how we consciously shape our future through the actions we take now. He says, when you cease to be a slave to your compulsions, you take charge of your destiny. How does that resonate with you?
It resonates deeply, Arya. Sadhguru's perspective reinforces Krishna's call to act with awareness and intention. By focusing on the intent behind our actions and letting go of selfish motives, we break free from the cycle of karma. But Arya, do you think this approach is practical for people juggling the demands of modern life?
Absolutely, Rayan. The key is to start small. For example, you could focus fully on one task at a time, whether it's cooking, working, or even having a conversation, and practice letting go of expectations about the results. These small, mindful shifts can make a big difference in how we experience daily life.
That's such a practical way to start, Arya. And Krishna's teachings in this chapter show us that spirituality isn't about retreating from life. It's about transforming how we engage with it. By combining self-awareness with action, we can navigate the world with purpose and peace.
And if these insights resonate with you, I encourage you to subscribe to Within and Without, a path to mindful living. Subscribing ensures you'll stay connected to future episodes and helps us share these timeless teachings with more seekers like you. Next, we'll explore the historical context of this chapter and how Krishna's teachings on renunciation and action fit into the broader spiritual traditions of the Gita. Rayan, shall we continue?
Let's do it, Arya. The historical backdrop always adds so much depth to these discussions.
To fully appreciate Krishna's teachings in Chapter 5, it's essential to explore the historical and cultural backdrop of the Bhagavad Gita. Rayan, let's start by looking at how this chapter builds on the broader themes of Vedic philosophy. What stands out to you?
Great question. Arya. Chapter 5 reflects the synthesis of Jnana Yoga, the path of knowledge, and Karma Yoga, the path of action. In traditional Vedic culture, renunciation or sannyasa was often viewed as the pinnacle of spirituality, a path reserved for ascetics who withdrew from worldly life. But Krishna democratizes this idea by emphasizing that selfless action, Karma Yoga, can be just as effective, if not more so, for achieving liberation.
Exactly, Rayan. Krishna's teachings in this chapter expand the accessibility of spiritual growth, making it possible for householders, workers, and anyone engaged in daily responsibilities to walk a spiritual path. It's not about abandoning life's duties, but about transforming how we approach them with awareness and detachment. This idea is beautifully illustrated in the story of King Janaka, who is often cited in the Gita and Upanishads as a model of enlightened action. Despite being a ruler deeply involved in governance and worldly affairs, Janaka achieved spiritual realization by performing his duties with complete detachment and devotion. Krishna holds Janaka as an ideal, showing us that spirituality can thrive even amidst the responsibilities of daily life.
What a powerful example, Arya. King Janaka's story reminds us that spirituality isn't about where you are or what you do. It's about your mindset and intention. Do you think his story still resonates in our modern world?
Absolutely, Rayan. It's as relevant today as ever. Consider how many of us juggle work, family, and personal growth. The idea that spiritual realization can coexist with worldly responsibilities is both inspiring and practical. And it's not just King Janaka. Modern spiritual thinkers like Yogananda echo this teaching. In Autobiography of a Yogi, Yogananda describes how daily life can become a form of meditation when approached with awareness and detachment.
I couldn't agree more, Arya. It's fascinating how these teachings bridge ancient wisdom with the demands of modern life. By following Krishna's guidance, anyone, regardless of their role, can find purpose and peace.
As you reflect on these timeless examples, consider subscribing to Within and Without, a path to mindful living. Your support helps us continue exploring these ancient teachings and connecting them to our lives today. Now that we've explored the philosophy and historical context of Chapter 5, let's focus on how Krishna's teachings on renunciation and action can be applied to our modern lives. Rayan, where do you think we should start?
Let's begin by breaking it down into 3 practical steps, Arya. These steps can help us integrate the balance between action and detachment into our daily routines. The first step is redefining success. Arya, how would you explain this concept?
Redefining success starts with reflecting on our motivations. Are we driven by external validation, like promotions, applause, or material rewards, or by intrinsic values, such as growth, learning, and contribution? Krishna encourages us to focus on the process, not the outcome. For example, if you're working on a project, pour your heart into it, but let go of attachment to the result. This mindset not only reduces stress, but also brings a deeper sense of fulfillment.
That's such a powerful shift, Arya. I remember a time when I was so fixated on perfecting a presentation that I forgot to enjoy the process of creating it. When I finally let go of that attachment to perfection, I found the entire experience much more rewarding.
And that brings us to the second step, practicing detachment. Rayan, what does detachment mean to you in a practical sense?
Detachment, to me, is about observing our relationships with possessions, goals, or outcomes, and reminding ourselves of their impermanence. It's not about indifference, it's about appreciating things without clinging to them. For example, I've started practicing this by observing my reactions when plans don't go as expected. Instead of frustration, I try to remind myself that flexibility is part of life.
That's such a healthy way to approach it, Rayan. I once lost a notebook filled with ideas that I cherished deeply. Initially, I felt devastated, but the experience taught me the value of letting go. It's a practice of reminding ourselves that our true worth isn't tied to external things, but to our inner state.
And that leads us to our third step, turning work into worship. Arya, how do you see this practice helping people transform their everyday lives?
Turning work into worship means infusing mindfulness and devotion into whatever task you're doing. It's about shifting your perspective from drudgery to a sense of purpose. Whether you're cooking, cleaning, or working, treat each action as an offering. For example, one listener shared how they reframed their teaching job as an offering to nurture young minds, which revitalized their joy and connection with their students.
That's such a transformative mindset, Arya. It reminds us that even the most mundane tasks can become meaningful when approached with intention and care. And it ties back to Krishna's teaching that action performed without attachment becomes a path to liberation.
If these steps resonate with you, share your reflections in the comments and subscribe to Within and Without, a path to mindful living. Subscribing helps us grow this community and ensures you don't miss the next episode, where we'll dive even deeper into practical ways to live mindfully. Now let's take a moment to integrate these teachings with a guided mindfulness exercise. Rayan, are you ready to center ourselves with a practice?
Let's do it, Arya. I'm looking forward to seeing how this exercise brings these concepts to life.
Let's take a moment to internalize Krishna's teachings from Chapter 5 with a short mindfulness exercise. This practice is designed to help you reflect on your actions and approach them with purpose and detachment. Find a comfortable seat and let's begin. Close your eyes if you feel comfortable and take a deep breath in and out. Let's take another deep breath together, in and out. Allow your body to relax and your mind to settle into the present moment. Now, bring to mind a task or responsibility you've been procrastinating or dreading. It could be something at work, at home, or even a personal project. Visualize yourself preparing to engage with this task. Imagine performing this task with full focus, letting go of any concerns about the outcome. Visualize yourself acting with purpose, simply for the joy of doing it, rather than for recognition or results. As you breathe, silently repeat to yourself, I act with purpose, not expectation. Feel the weight of attachment lift with each breath. Picture yourself becoming lighter, more present, and more grounded in the process of action. Take a moment to reflect. How does this mindset shift your approach to the task? Notice if there's a sense of clarity, calm, or even curiosity about engaging with it now. When you're ready, gently bring your awareness back to the room. wiggle your fingers and toes, and slowly open your eyes. How do you feel? Maybe a little lighter, a little more focused, or perhaps more willing to take on that task you've been avoiding. Remember, mindfulness isn't about perfection. It's about bringing awareness to each moment and allowing yourself the freedom to act without the weight of expectation. If you found this exercise helpful, please subscribe to Within and Without, A Path to Mindful Living. Subscribing ensures you'll stay connected to future episodes and lets us continue creating content to support your journey toward mindfulness. And what stood out to you about this exercise? Did it bring any new perspectives to light for you?
It really did, Arya. Focusing on the process and letting go of outcomes feels so liberating. It's a reminder that the simple act of mindfulness can transform how we approach even the most mundane tasks.
Exactly, Rayan. And listeners, we'd love to hear about your experiences with this exercise. Did it help you see a task or responsibility differently? Share your reflections in the comments. Before we wrap up today's episode, let's take a moment to reflect on Krishna's teachings and how they resonate in our lives. Rayan, what's one takeaway from Chapter 5 that you think our listeners should carry with them?
For me, Arya, it's Krishna's teaching that renunciation and action aren't opposing forces, they're complementary paths. When we act without attachment, we transform our everyday duties into opportunities for growth and liberation. It's such an empowering message.
Beautifully said, Rayan. For me, it's the metaphor of the lotus leaf, thriving in water yet untouched by it. It's a reminder that we can stay spiritually centered even as we navigate the chaos of the world. And listeners, we'd love to hear your thoughts too. Which part of today's discussion resonated most with you? Do you find action or renunciation more challenging? How might you start practicing detachment in your life this week? Share your reflections in the comments or on social media using #KarmaInAction. Your insights help us learn and grow together as a community. And if you've enjoyed this episode, please like, comment, and subscribe to Within and Without, A Path to Mindful Living. Subscribing helps us continue exploring these teachings and sharing them with a broader audience. If you know someone who might benefit from these discussions, share this episode with them. It's a small act that can spark meaningful growth. Next week, we'll move into Chapter 6, Dhyana Yoga, or the Yoga of Meditation. Rayan, I'm so excited about this chapter. It's all about the transformative power of meditation as a path to self-realization and inner peace.
Me too, Arya. Krishna guides Arjuna through the discipline of meditation, teaching him how to still the mind and connect with the self. It's such a powerful practice, especially in today's world where our attention is constantly being pulled in so many directions.
Exactly, Rayan. In Chapter 6, we'll explore practical steps to cultivate a meditation practice, understand the mind's role in spiritual growth, and learn how to create balance and inner harmony in our lives. It's a chapter that I think will deeply resonate with all of us. So, make sure to join us next week for this exploration. And to ensure you don't miss it, subscribe to Within and Without, A Path to Mindful Living. Subscribing keeps you connected to our upcoming episodes and helps us build this incredible community of mindful seekers. As we end today's journey through Chapter 5, I encourage you to carry a mindful moment into the rest of your day. Reflect on one action you can approach with purpose and detachment. Perhaps it's a task you've been putting off or a conversation you've been avoiding. Remember Krishna's guidance. Focus on the process, not the outcome.
And remember, every small effort to act mindfully is a step toward liberation. Thank you for joining us today and for being part of this journey.
Until next time, stay mindful, stay present, and remember, every action can be a step toward peace and clarity. Take care, everyone, and we'll see you next week as we explore the transformative power of meditation.
Join us on Within and Without, A Path to Mindful Living, as we explore the art of mindfulness together. Subscribe to our channel for more insights and practices to bring mindfulness into your everyday life.